We call it.
Sure.
Sure. We have everybody who's sitting out there.
I did interest.
All right.
And
Excellent. We are at 6:30. Today is Thursday, July 10th, and this is the City of Orinoco Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. And with that, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call for the commissioners. I'm Kathy Brandt Rucker. Commissioner John Evans.
Here.
Commissioner Grant Koser.
Here.
Commissioner Jim Phillips.
Here.
Commissioner Scott Sorensen.
Here.
Commissioner Daniel Spring.
Here.
And we do currently have an open seat, so if there's anybody out there listening or present that is interested, something to think about. We do have the applications on the website and are always looking for interested volunteers for city committees. We will also go with our staff. Staff Phil Carlson. Phil, are you out there?
Evan Munson here. I'm filling in for Mr. Carlson.
Thank you, Evan. Evan Munson. Joe Palin.
I'm here tonight as well.
Okay. And Jason Baker from the city.
Here.
And Jason's in the back there. Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes or additions for our agenda for this evening? I have one item to throw under new business, and that is just the date of our August meeting. Happen to notice it falls on Gold Rush Thursday. So parking would certainly be an issue, as well as trying to get in and out of the building. We'll throw that under new business. Any other changes? Okay, all in favor of the agenda as amended there? Say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Same side? All right, and our agenda passes. We do not currently have minutes, but we do have an AI and a plan to work on getting those. So possibly at next month's meeting, we may have a packet of several months worth to approve at some point. With that, we do have to wait till 6:35 for our public hearings to start. They are posted at 6:35. They're two different public hearings, but they are actually for the same parcel, just so everybody is aware. There are two public hearings tonight, but they will not start till 6:35. One thing I will note, I had talked about the date for Gold Rush, so when we do get to that, something to think about is our choices would be to probably push it a week earlier or a week later. If we go a week later, it gets a little tight for council. But we also have all the new code potentially as a public hearing for next month. So something just to keep in the back of your mind. So when we get to that point, we can chat about it. You're now at 6:33. So we do have to kill time for 2 minutes. If anybody does see over at the podium or is thinking about speaking tonight, we do have some sheets over there that you can fill out. With the public forum, we do allow public comments during our public hearings that we have going on here for both the conditional use permit and the preliminary plat application. So we've got two different public hearings. Almost there, folks. One more minute. And if anyone has filled out a slip and has not turned it, feel free to bring it on up here and we'll get you. I've got two of them so far turned in, but can certainly fill it out then or fill it out in advance, either way. We're very close. Watch 6:35. So here we are. We can now, on the very first public hearing, conditional use permit for Cedar Woodlands third parcel ID 84.20.12.080290, and I will open the public hearing at 6:35. I did receive two people who are here present to speak for public comments. So with that, we will open it up for public comments right now. The first one I have here is Josh, if you could come up and if you want to speak at the podium there, come up and state your name and address, and please go ahead.
So Josh Crushane, 1440 Cedar Point Road Southeast, Orinoco. And I don't know which one I'm supposed to speak to first. I have three topics that I feel like I have an opportunity to grab the ear of the people in the room, and I should take it tonight because I don't know when the next one's gonna come up. So the first thing I want to talk about in related to this coming in is gonna be rentals. It's gonna be the question is, does the city have a plan for rentals? Is there an ordinance out there? Because I haven't been able to find one. And I see these coming in, they're smaller units. Smaller units rent well. And I've heard the argument made, hey, the price point for these isn't gonna be something that someone's gonna wanna buy up, take on a mortgage to turn them around and try to rent them. But I think that, I mean, it's been said, we're not looking for that demographic. We're expecting 55 plus, the elderly to come in, retirees, people who might be downsizing to buy into this price point. And what happens to that population when they pass on? They typically will, pass on their property to their children or to somebody else. And so I just look at this saying, well, if I was to inherit one of these, it's just down the street from Rochester, and there's a lot of medical professionals who don't need to be in Rochester for a horribly long time. They might consider renting one of these. So I guess my question, I'm just wondering, like, how do we have a plan for handling that in the future here? I know Rochester you have to get a rental certificate. Does that exist here in Orinoco? Would we allow Airbnbs, the super short-term rentals where people are renting for a weekend, renting for a month, because that brings in an inherent risk to your community if you're allowing such a thing. Second thing I wanted to talk about tonight is gonna be the Cedar Point Road Southeast itself. So I attended the open house. I really appreciate the open houses being held and being able to come and have some of our worries calmed a bit by the information that's provided. That's been great. I really appreciate the updated plans. There's no longer a road exiting right into my driveway. Absolutely love that, but I still have concerns with the traffic that's gonna bring, still having an exit coming onto the east side of Cedar Point Southeast. I look at that and I question why it's even there. I see anyone living in that area needing to exit towards Minnesota Avenue because all roads lead to Minnesota Avenue. And so if you needed to do that, you would probably just head west towards Minnesota Avenue. Unless you wanted to get there quicker, then you might take Cedar Point Road Southeast and drive faster, which that's already a big curve. It's somewhat blind right now without having buildings in there. And so I just have concerns with that. I know we didn't hit the amount of traffic needed to have a traffic study, I think is how it was explained. The state didn't require it or something along those lines. But to me, I see people walking down that street. I see pets walking down that street, children riding their bikes up and down. My kid rides her bike up and down all the time. And increased traffic there, it brings a worry to me. And the argument that I could see is, well, we might want to exit there if that road, Cedar Point Road Southeast, ever extends further south. But that was when the Linda King Group came in. They spoke to that area down there basically being financially undevelopable, strictly south of Cedar Point Road Southeast there, saying that it just, due to the grading and the slope and it leads into the ravine, they were going to leave it as a wetland. So that brings me to my third point tonight, which is going to be preserving the rural aesthetic that we have here in Orinoco. Appreciate all the plans that have been provided. I've spoke to neighbors who have said, you know, ultimately, what they want to see is the landscaping plan that's gonna be involved with these. Because as of right now, we look out, we see a sunset. Are we gonna look out and see trees with birds flying around in them, or are we gonna see what's depicted in the 3D rendering? Which, as of right now, we're told, hey, these are luxury townhomes going in, they're gonna be of high quality material, but that doesn't always mean that it's gonna look nice. And that's what we want to do. We're hoping to be able to look across the field and see our neighbors, see people who are living a similar aesthetic as we are living today. We know that this is gonna come with change. We're sure that you know, the south-facing tree line is probably gonna be completely gone. It's really gonna open up the whole neighborhood, but just taking those things into consideration. So I think everyone's time.
Next, I have Bill, if you wanna come up and speak. State your name and address and
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I'm Bill Twinton with WSE. I represent the developer, Dragon Kopsik, who's here, which is being developed under Pine Southwest. With me also is Ryan from WSE, who is an engineer with our firm, helping with the project. I think I'm gonna start by maybe responding to the questions that the gentleman before me had. Number one, one of the major points of this entire development, one of the more safety features of it is we're building path systems all the way along Cedar Point Road. We're also putting a path through the system as required by the land use plan. And that's to separate pedestrian traffic off the road and letting them use this connectivity down to the Two Sisters Restaurant or the gas station or walking down to Minnesota Avenue. We talked a little bit about the traffic at our last neighborhood meeting, and what we said was that in reviewing the existing ordinance that Orinoco has, they don't have thresholds for a trigger that we can see for a traffic study. What I did tell the neighbors is that if you looked at just phase one, the first four buildings, we have less than 100 trips a day, which doesn't trigger even a county traffic study. The entire development will be under 400 trips a day, possibly depending on what category we use in a traffic manual to calculate the trips. So our thought was to analyze the traffic. If we get a preliminary approval, so we know what we're dealing with, we can provide traffic analysis so that it lets people know what we're anticipating for traffic. So the reason for multiple access points, one reason for them to the road is to get away from congesting one access point out of the subdivision, getting emergency vehicles in and out in a timely fashion, rather than have to drive over here on the west side of the thing and wind all the way through these roads to get to emergency on the southeast corner of the property. We'd come down Cedar Point and come in on a different location. So those are the reasons we chose the access openings. We did move the one in the southeast corner because we understand the headlight glare across the street to this gentleman's home, so we did that. But we went from 5 to 3, so we had 5 access points, we went to 3, which I think is adequate to handle 3 phases that we're proposing to build in the development. So I just wanted to start with that, and I'm open to questions at any time through the presentation. I do have a slide presentation, if we can share that with Ryan can share the screen. Could go through that.
Bill's share.
You have to plug in up here.
Okay.
Maybe keep things moving. I can start a little bit here before he gets, if that's okay with the commission. Oh, I did want to ask the commission. I know you have 2 separate public hearings. You want me to address both of those, items in one talk here?
what I might do is let's get your comments here, and before we start the actual presentation piece, I do want to give everybody else an opportunity to
Okay,
speak
you
to.
sit down there and
Well, if you have other things you want to add there, but before we jump into the presentation, I just want to make sure everybody in the room has a chance to
I felt
chat.
like that's what I said. So.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's just fine.
See if there's any other comments. And then we
And there may, I don't know if there is or not. So far, I've just received the two, but
Yeah, I come back up then and do the presentation.
just, will give us just a couple minutes and yeah,
All right.
if you wanna. So with that, is there anyone else present who would like to speak for or against the application we have right now, the conditional use permit for Cedar Woodlands third parcel ID 84.20.12.080.290? And if you do, I would just ask that you come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jackie McFarland and I'm on 807 Norman Lane Southeast. Neighbors to Josh. I question also the need for the access and where you've put the access coming out of that neighborhood. It is coming right into the right behind on the side of my house. There's a road there that goes, it used to be a road that they used as a service road to get to our sewer system when we were maintaining it ourselves. And it is still there. There's nothing up there to guard it. And I question why they're putting it right there. It's so close to it that people are gonna try and go down that path. And it's not really a drivable path anymore, but I do question why they are doing that. It needs to be moved, in my opinion. It's just in the wrong spot. It either has to move over further or something. It just cannot be there because it's gonna want, they're gonna be curious. And it's not what we want as homeowners, to have people think they're gonna be curious and walk down our easement and explore, I guess. So to us, it just seems like we're asking for that to be moved. And I guess that's just all I wanted to say, because I'm really opposed to having people walk down on the side of my house, because it's really close. And I just believe they can find a different spot for that. And also worry about kids riding bikes and getting, because that is such a weird, if you look at the map and you see where that is, it's really close to that old service exit. And there used to be a gate up there, but they've taken it down since you guys decided to do the sewer system. It was taken down. It wasn't much of a gate, but enough to deter people from driving down. And the way it is, the city of Orinoco broke one of my windows when they were putting in the sewer system, and they're trying to tell me it's a bird. So anyway, I'm not real appreciating the fact that, and the stuff was so close to my house was rattling when they were putting in the sewer system because it was such a tight squeeze. So anyway, I would appreciate if they would revisit that. I don't know who's actually in charge of that, but I'd like to have that revisited, please.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present who would like to speak for or against the application? This is for the conditional use permit, Cedar Woodlands third parcel ID. 84.20.12.080.290. And with that, before I close the public hearing, do we?
Just ask online.
Is there anyone present online that would like to speak? And before we close the public hearing, let's go ahead. If you wanted to bill it, we'll put that up there. And let's see if we can make sure everybody out there can also see. All right. You want to walk us through your slides there?
Yeah, I would like to, as part of the presentation.
Hold on, here, sorry. Would,
So again, I'm Bill Toynton with WSE. I'm here representing the developer owner, Reagan Kosick, with regards to the PUD and the preliminary plat. We did conduct a pre-development meeting with the city staff and city administrator, along with planners and engineers from Stantec on May 28th. And the purpose of that meeting was to find a process for what we were to do for the development process to go from where we are today, a concept plan, to the finish line with a final plat. What was outlined for us, and in addition, we had a neighborhood meeting, second neighborhood meeting on June 30th. So the plans that they're gonna see tonight are the same ones that they were showing on June 30th. So with regards to the PUD process, those provide plans for the project that you would approve through a conditional use permit. A PUD to me is similar to a site plan, if you're familiar with the whole site development plan. According to the zoning code, a PUD is used on new projects for undeveloped land, which Cedar Woods qualifies for. It's a flexible means to permit development through the conditional use process. The second application we have is a preliminary plat, which we did submit with a PUD, and it's simply combining two outlots into one regular lot, which then we're able to build on the property. But your code does not allow buildings on outlots. And then along with that, we submitted preliminary plans for grading, utilities, street plans, et cetera, with a preliminary plat, which is also required by your ordinance. Future steps we have are final plats, final construction plans, a development agreement, homeowners documents, condo documents, and then the actual construction of the project. And the next slide is the original concept plan we started with the first neighborhood meeting. It was presented to the planning commission for informational purposes. Again, it's the same number of condo units. It's 13.5 acres. It's got private roads, pedestrian trails, central stormwater treatment facility. And at that time, we had 5 access points to Cedar Point Road. The new drawing, which is the next slide, a little more clarity here. We have refined this plan and reduced the access drives to 3. I'm not sure where the speaker was talking about where our road was coming out to Cedar Point is the very southeast corner. We took the southerly one out. We have just one in that location. The other one is a dead end up there at the right where his cursor is. So that's what we have right now. And the other thing we did add additional remote parking or satellite parking, as we call it. We upsized the private roads. We had a 26-foot wide paved area. We now have a 28-foot, along with concrete curb and gutter. So we have a 30-foot wide section. I did not get a chance to talk to the Orinoco Fire. I did have a chance to speak with Rochester Fire. They run aerial apparatus, which is the largest piece of equipment that you'll see responding to a house fire. They need a minimum of 26 feet to put their outriggers down and get the aerial ladder up if they need to use it. We have 28 feet, no parking, so it'll be clear to go. EMTs, same thing. They need 28 feet just to maneuver through the center of the road and get to some particular emergency. So we have increased the road width and put the curb and gutter in there, which is a change from our original plan. We also added a dog park area. You can see it just kind of north and west of the stormwater pond. We refined the shape and size of the stormwater pond. We have some comments from Mr. Palin we need to address with the final plans regarding the drainage calculations and so forth. We've rearranged the buildings a little bit, but we still maintain the 40-foot separation. That hasn't changed since the beginning of the project. We also went from if you remember, we had a garbage compactor in the south end of the subdivision previously, and we eliminated that, and we're going to go to individual garbage pickup. I think that was a question in the staff report, but we noted that in our narrative that we submitted. We're going with individual garbage pickup within the subdivision. The next slide is the pedestrian facilities. I wanted to emphasize that we're committed to building pedestrian trail system pedestrian path along Cedar Point Drive from the northwest corner to the northeast. This does not show it going to the northeast, but the staff, your planner, Evan Munson has recommended that. We are agreeable to doing that. We will make that connection to the south. I'm not sure at what time in the future somebody might extend it, but we'll take care of it to our property line. It was also recommended in the staff report to reverse the pedestrian path and the sidewalk. So the sidewalk would be on the left side of that drawing, the red, which was originally on your land use plan, an actual pedestrian path. So the recommendation from staff, and if you agree with it, we will reverse them and we will make the 10-foot path start at the northwest corner and go all the way to the southeast corner. And then we will have our sidewalk be the westerly side next to the commercial stuff on the west side of the road there. So that's something you as a commission would need to direct us to do. I mean, we're good to do it, but you have to tell us that it's okay. Next slide is our utility layout. You can see that connecting in 2 points on the sewer, one on the southwest corner, one over on the east side. We're looping the water through the project. The staff report indicates there is sufficient capacity to handle the servicing of the sewer within the subdivision at full build out. And just quickly, if you read the staff report on the PUD, it notes a couple of important things. One is that we meet the intent of the ordinance with our density. The density range in your ordinance is 1 unit to 4.5 per acre. We're at 3.95. So we are under the 4.5. So we do meet your criteria for that. We're not asking for any variances on this project. Private roads are allowed under the PUD. So there's no need for a variance request for that. We talked about the road widths, and in the staff report, Mr. Munson concludes the recommendation to approve the PUD with 6 conditions that are noted on the last page of the report. We're in agreement with those conditions that are mentioned there. And that would conclude my presentation on the PUD. So I do have some for the preliminary plat. It's a matter whether you want to take them now or they're really short.
Let's roll with them.
Okay,
Keep things going for the night, yeah.
All right, so the next slide is a preliminary plat. So we combine the 2 all lots into one big lot here, which is required to get a building permit for residential use. We've got easements for pedestrian paths and sidewalks and utilities that will be showing on the plat as it moves into the final stage. Since staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat based on criteria that was provided by your planner and with 6 conditions that are listed in your staff report. Our client is in agreement with those 6 conditions. So in summary, the development of Cedar Woodlands condos is consistent with existing land use and zoning through the PUD conditional use permit process, and the preliminary plat process would be compliant with the zoning and subdivision code. We have adequate vehicular and pedestrian connectivity for the project. We're on municipal water and sewer, and we are providing on-site stormwater treatment. So again, the planning court recommends approval of both items, the PUD/conditional use permit and the preliminary plat. Again, we're in agreement with the conditions that Mr. Munson listed in his report. One that you need to decide is recommendation to move the outside being the actual 10-foot pedestrian path and the sidewalk from the west. But we are agreeable to doing that if you all approve that. Are there any questions that you have at this time, or if there's anything comes up, I can come back.
We may have some while we have our discussion, but for now, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'm gonna ask one last time. We are on the first of the 2 public hearings, the conditional use permit for Cedar Woodlands 3rd. With that, is there anyone that would like to speak for or against the application? Is there anyone present that would like to speak for or against the application? Now, we have heard from a couple people. And with, yes?
I'm wondering Cedar Center Road.
Do you could you just state your name and address here? Yep.
Karen Parker, I live right across the street from Two Sisters. I was just curious with that Cedar Center Road, are they gonna be widening that or marking it with lanes? Because there's a bus that goes there and drops kids off and I'm kind of concerned about that with no markings on the road. And it's a curvy road.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else present who has not had a chance that would like to speak for or against the application? With that, I will close the public hearing. It is 7:01. And we could go ahead, Evan. You want to walk us through the staff report?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, Commissioners. So as you noted in the developer's presentation, I got two items before you tonight, and I'll go through both of those here in this staff report for you. You have that preliminary plat to combine those two outlots into one buildable lot. And then you have that conditional use permit or CUP. You'll see that acronym throughout to allow what's called a planned unit development or PUD. So those are those two acronyms you see. You may recall this property, the outlot A, so the west half of the site, was recently re-guided in the future land use map, as well as rezoned from B2 to R2 to allow for residential use. That was approved by the city at their April council meeting. So just to give a little bit of an overview, this project does propose 54 units in total. Those will be spread between 14 different buildings, which you've seen in some of those site plans for you tonight. Each building would contain 4 units. Each unit would be either a 2, 3, or 4 bedroom unit. They would all have attached garages. They would all then have driveways that access onto those private roads throughout the site. Those private roads are shown with those 2 accesses, as we saw earlier, onto Cedar Center Avenue southeast, and then a couple onto Cedar Point Road southeast. The applicant again did note that there was parking throughout the site that he refers to as satellite parking, so that could be used by guests or visitors visiting those dwelling units. In addition to the condos, they also noted they were adding some other features onto the site that included a swimming pool and a recreation building, and then you have a dog park and that stormwater treatment pond on the northeast side of the site. They also did note that there would be what's called a condominium association, so that would act similar to an HOA, and they would manage any of those shared spaces. So that dog park, the stormwater treatment pond, the swimming pool, and that recreation building. Going through the rest of your staff report, you'll note the 2 requests before you tonight. Both of these get to go before you here at the Planning Commission, and then depending on your recommendation, it will then go forward to the City Council for final approval or denial. As part of that platting process right now, the preliminary plat is that first step. And then if that preliminary plat is approved by the City Council, they then come back with what's called a final plat in the future. Going through the staff report, you'll see on page 3, we get into the evaluation. We'll start with your comprehensive plan. So again, the overarching guide for future development in your city. You do have what's called the future land use map. So that kind of guides a little specifically what you'll see on different development sites throughout the city. You'll do see a graphic that again notes those different zones or designations. You'll note that the one part of the site is colored red. That was recently changed to that orange color to allow for that residential use in the future. You also see on that graphic some different green lines. Those are proposed trails. And so you'll note that applicant noted a discussion about sidewalks versus trails. So initially, as you can see on that graphic, the green line showed a pedestrian trail running roughly north-south through the site. In discussion with staff, we felt, given the context of the development to the west, so the gas station and then the Glenn's Motor Coach property, it might make more sense to flip-flop those 2 pedestrian options. And so you'd have, instead of the pedestrian trail, which is a little wider, you would have that run along the north and the east of the site and then terminate at the southern border. And then that sidewalk, which is a little narrower in width, that would run along the east side. Going through the rest of the staff report, you'll note again that future land use plan does refer to that designation of multifamily residential. That does correspond to the residential 2 or R2 zone in your city code. The comprehensive plan does note those densities for what you're expecting for some of those designated properties. And again, that is between 1 and 4.5 units, which this property would come out to a density when fully built out of 3.95 units per acre. So you're within that frame of reference for density. Getting into your city code, there's a couple different things. So the PUD, will cover that one first. Planned unit development. It's kind of a unique way to allow development that's more larger scale and size than just a single family house on an individual parcel. That PUD is granted or approved by the city through what's called that CUP or conditional use permit. And so there's a couple different requirements that you'll see outlined in that staff report for you tonight. There's a few criteria in particular for the PUD that we reviewed at the staff level, and based on the plan submitted to us, does appear to be meeting those criteria. For the CUP, again, that conditional use permit, there's criteria that the city reviews as well. You'll see those outlined on pages 4 and 5 of your staff report before you tonight. Those, again, are also met as well. We would know there's a few minor items that would need to be changed or added on to as part of the developer's process moving forward. So there's a few items that they may need to provide either more information on, such as outdoor lighting or signage, to make sure that we can review and ensure they meet your code requirements. And then there's some other small items as well, such as easements for different infrastructure items. Going through further into your staff report, so on page 6, we get into that preliminary plat. And so that is covered under your subdivision code. And so that preliminary plat is how they're combining those 2 outlots into one new buildable lot. And so you do have a couple comments from the engineering staff, which are also attached in a memo from my colleague, Joe Palin, who's also on the call tonight for you. In addition to the preliminary plat, there is a requirement of parkland dedication. Anytime you subdivide land within the city for a plat, the city can acquire land to be dedicated for a new park. Alternatively, if there's no plans or desire for a park, you can do what's called a fee in lieu, or a cash payment in exchange for not having a park. You might donate to the city, so then the city can repurpose those funds for parks throughout the rest of the city. Since the applicant's site does not have any plans for a park based on the current city plans, staff would recommend a dedication of cash be made to the city. That is in accordance with section 151.288 of your city code. And specifically, it does state how that value comes up. And so that is based on 10% of the fair market assessed value of the site, which in this case would come out to $80,011. The city may also want to consider the trail that's being proposed by the applicant as an offset from that amount. And so we did note, if whether it's the city or the developer gets a quote for that cost of the trail, you could consider that as offsetting part of that cash donation as well, since the trail and the sidewalks would kind of function similar to open green space or park space that you might see elsewhere in the city. You do have some comments on page 7 that were received as part of our review. We sent it out to other staff and agencies for comment. You did get some comments from the county in regards to addressing, and then the naming of the private streets. I would note again that my colleague's comments are compiled in a staff report that he has submitted to you as well, and those cover engineering and then any drainage and grading items. So to summarize, you do have 3 options for each request. I recommend that the City Council approve of it with findings for approval, and then you can add or not add conditions of approval. You can also recommend, if you find that those criteria that we discussed were not met, you could have findings for denial and recommend the City Council deny. And then ultimately, if you feel there's some additional issues you wish to review, you can table the request for further review and study. I would note at the end of my report, so page 7, 8, and 9, you do have those recommendations for each item. So the first item that we're doing the hearing on tonight, that conditional use permit, staff does recommend approval based on the filing findings, 4 findings that you'll see listed there, noting that it does meet the requirements for a PUD as outlined in city code. 2, that it meets the requirements for a conditional use permit, again, as outlined under city code. 3, the request would be consistent with the guidance for the site as identified in the comprehensive plan. And 4, that the request would create a development that meets the requirements of your R2 zoning district. For that CUP, if you do choose to approve, we would recommend 6 conditions. 1, that they would be consistent with the proposed plan as dated 4/25 that was reviewed with this request. And in addition, any changes or amendments the commission or the city council makes. 2, that plan has to be revised to adhere to the requirements of the city engineer as outlined in his memo dated 7/8/25. 3rd, the proposed plan would have to adhere to the preliminary plat as well as the final plat, which we're also reviewing here tonight. 4, that proposed recreation building, you'll see that rec building label on the plan shall not be used for any use not permitted or allowed within the underlying zoning district. So that'll be that R2 zone. 5, the applicant had have to get any other permits they need, so whether it's to the city, the county, state, or the feds, and then get any other approvals as well. And then lastly, they'll have to pay any fees or escrows required for this request. Then I would note you do have that preliminary plat recommendation in there as well. Again, that recommendation was for approval based on a handful of following or findings here, which are that it does meet the request or requirements for a preliminary plat, again, as outlined under city code. The request would be consistent with your future land use plan and your comprehensive plan. It would create a development that meets your requirements of your R2 zone. For that preliminary plat, which is your next hearing item, there's also another couple conditions of approval. Those would be that the plat would have to be consistent with the proposed preliminary plat. And so any changes or amendments you or the council make, they would have to incorporate those into their final plat as well, which again is that next step in the process after this, if it does move forward with approval. 2, they would have to adhere to the requirements of the city engineer, again, as outlined in his memo dated 7/8/25. And then there's a couple of specific comments regarding utilities, grading and drainage, private driveways and the pedestrian facilities, and then sanitary sewer and water main, as well as stormwater management. 3, we include the comment about parkland dedication fee, that fee in lieu of land coming out to $80,011. 3A does note that they can submit information identifying the cost of those trails and sidewalks as an offset. Condition 4 for that preliminary plat would be that they would enter into what's called a development agreement. So that'd be a contract between the city and the developer that would specify how things are built and constructed in the project. Condition 5 would be that, again, they would have to secure any other required permits or approvals. So whether that's through us here at the city, the county, state, or the feds. And then lastly, again, they'd have to pay any fees or escrows associated with this request. So that is the report for you.
Thank you. For those who got your packets or maybe are following along with the online packets, we were looking at the last pieces he was reading off are really of the packets, page 28, 29, and 30, roughly, just for everybody to make sure we're all looking at the same thing. All right. Any discussion up here? Questions? I just have a couple questions that I've got written down here. So I think some of my questions I had about the pedestrian path were somewhat answered. We want to make sure with the greater number of people living there density wise that people have a way to walk around without having to walk on the same areas being used by cars. The other one, I know when this came through the first time, I had a question about the private roads because I did have some concerns about emergency service vehicles getting through. And it does sound like they have been widened, so that part I appreciate. outdoor lighting, it sounds like somebody else had brought that up, so that is one of the pieces out there that was to be addressed yet, so that's something that I had a question about. Landscaping, I have seen come up before on other hearings, other applications. And I have seen even for gravel pits where you can require on the zoning side that they put in X number of trees or shrubs or bushes as a condition. I have seen something like that previously. So if that's something as a group you wanted to consider adding, that they would have to put X number of whatever, and you can even specify sizes of at least 1 foot or 2 feet that need to be of even a species of a, not. So I have seen things like that, that can be done on the zoning side as a condition for landscaping. The other question I had, and I've gone through it and I keep hearing garages, and this is one that's come up as we've looked through rewriting some of the zoning code for the city, is it says garages, are these, originally, I think it was proposed to be very small 1-car garages. Are these 2-car garages? 2-car garages, okay. Because I do know that's what the commission and the task force, the steering committee had looked at, and they've looking to change the city code, so it's at least 2-car garages, because that was one of the original concerns with the narrow streets, less parking, that if you have 1 car, most of these would have probably at least 2 cars per residence. Or a car and a fridge and a toy of some kind in a garage, so. That was my other one that I had questions on, was the size of the garages, so 2 cars minimum, perfect. Questions, anybody else up front here?
Would there be access for this walking path? Will there be access built in for Cedar Drive and Cedar Point to access that, or will there be a ditch or a grass between that? Road accesses. So somebody coming off of, say, walking off of Cedar Drive can walk straight onto that walking path.
From the city engineer's perspective, yes, that is something that ultimately we would want to work into the construction plans
Okay.
at strategic locations.
One question I have is that last access point that came up through some of the discussions going on tonight, so. I've been to some of the public meetings that you guys have held and appreciate some of the detail and I would say consideration you put into this and some of the changes. And this question may be more for you, Joe, but is there any requirement on that last access point due to emergency services and having a quicker access to get back to some of those houses? Is there anything around that or the more convenience?
I do think that's part of the consideration, having multiple access points for emergency vehicles, both in and out, is an issue, is a concern that we do look at. And, on that easterly phase, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units and 1, maybe 2 accesses, I guess, really serving them. Not that they couldn't go to the west, but most likely they'll head to the north or east to get to Cedar Point Road. And so, yes, that is a consideration, and I do want to see an access in that southerly area there to Cedar Point Road southeast. I think it's a public safety issue, an emergency vehicle access issue.
Thank you. So originally it was proposed as 5, right now it's on paper, it is the 3.
Yes.
3 onto Cedar Point Road and 2 onto Cedar Center Avenue.
Any other discussion up front here? And I'm assuming that you guys are planning on some type of landscaping, that I can't see a development like this going in without something. So if there were to be some type of additional requirement, you're not opposed to putting in landscaping, it just,
No, may I address that?
yeah,
The
sure.
reason we didn't produce the landscaping plan with this preliminary PUD is the fact that should you all make a decision that we have to change some of the roads, some of the buildings, would have been a waste of time to provide landscaping. Most of Dragon's properties exceed codes for the minimum amounts of landscaping in this project, because they want it to look good too. So yes, there will be a landscape plan, and it'll have adequate landscaping to buffer the effects of the housing along Cedar Point Road and internally.
I would add too, there's some landscaping shown on the last sheet of the preliminary plan submittal. The last sheet of your packet, in fact, you can see there are some trees and landscape features that are proposed adjacent to the buildings in some areas. And I do, I would anticipate that as the plans develop further, there'll be landscaping up against houses or the building units and other places likely as well.
Yeah, I'm anticipating that too. I just
Yeah,
know,
Madam Chair, if you want, you could recommend that as a condition of final landscaping plan and then that final lighting plan as part of that final plat.
and I know with landscaping, sometimes you can structure it so that if you have areas that people walk or don't walk, you can put shrubs in a certain area if you want to discourage people from cutting across the road to other areas or encourage either way. So that's something that could be looked at during a landscaping plan. Now, help me out here with, if we are to require something like that as a condition of final landscaping and a final lighting plan, would those necessarily have to come back to planning and zoning, or would those be taken care of typically by the city, or is it something that could go either way?
Typically, that would go before at minimum the city council if that's something they wish or you wish to have come back to you, that you could set that as a condition as well.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions up front here for?
Is it fair to ask a question about the retention pond?
Yeah.
So I know we kind of picked your brain a little bit too, but like it stated for kind of the group, but the retention pond, obviously, some of the concerns that have been brought up is kids in the area. There's a walking path that's gonna run right along that retention pond. Is there any kind of boundary, maybe it's landscaping, maybe it's something that you put around it to kind of keep access away from that retention pond that goes right there? Because again, oftentimes you'll see them tucked back to somewhere within a neighborhood, but that's obviously kind of right out in the open there next to other houses that are already established. So I'm curious on the thoughts there.
So I can address that if you'd like.
Yep.
We would prefer to use the landscaping. Kind of the rule of thumb in the industry is don't fence them.
Yep.
Causes more problems. Kids climb over the fence because it's there. Landscaping is a better way of doing it, so we can take care of that with a landscape plan.
Perfect. Okay.
I would tell you from being a first responder, I'd much prefer landscaping over a fence. If somebody's having trouble, now we've got to try and cut through a fence.
Agreed. It was just more of a concern that I know has come up through other discussions too. So
Yeah.
So I would add to that we do require that the ponds be constructed with a safety bench at the normal water level of 10 feet horizontal to a foot drop. So it's a 10-foot safety bench. So the first 10 feet of the pond, you have to walk in 10 feet to get a foot deep. And so that's a pretty standard component that we incorporate into the ponds for safety. And I would agree with Bill's comment as well. We do not typically recommend fencing ponds. It's an obstacle for emergency services if there is an accident, and it seems to at times attract people needlessly, and it also makes maintenance of those facilities much more difficult.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Good questions. Appreciate the answers from everybody. Any more questions or does somebody have a motion they'd like to make?
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit number 1 with the added things of some landscaping directive that would be so we get an idea, take a look and see what you have for landscaping. And also to take a look at what you were planning for lighting in the area as well. I think those are the two critical things that there are, so I make a motion to approve with those two conditions.
Want to approve it with swapping the pedestrian trail and the sidewalk?
Yeah, I think that makes sense to try to put a walking trail through there. The walks make a whole lot more sense, you know, to be able to do that, to work your way around if you're gonna be going to Gas and Go. Or anything else, if you've got the sidewalks that were put in there, I think that makes sense.
So putting the pedestrian trail around the north
Just
and
around.
east side,
Or you are using the sidewalk that goes around.
flip flopping them in these plans.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, you would approve it with the CUP with the conditions that are listed on page 30 and 31 of the packet when that was approved here. Based on the findings and the 6 conditions, and you would add a condition 7. That is a final landscaping and final lighting plan be received. Do you want that at city council or back to planning and zoning?
I think we can do it at city council. I think that would be fine.
And then a pedestrian trail sidewalk flip flop would be number 8.
As they discussed in the presentation.
Yep.
How are they?
Yeah. is that what's the
However, it was
presentation?
worded there, that would be number 8. So we've got a first
Would second that.
and second that. Any other discussion? We have a first, a second, no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? Okay. With that, this goes as a recommendation to city council for approval on that conditional use permit. We do have a second public hearing that is going to happen. That is going to now sound almost identical to the one we just had. This is the second public hearing. I will be opening this now officially at 7:27. And this is for the preliminary plat application for Cedar Woodlands Third, parcel ID 84.20.12.0802990. And again, we will be opening this now for public comments. This is on the preliminary plat. Is there anyone present that would like to speak for or against this particular application? Is there anyone present that would like to speak for or against the application? Is there anyone present? I do have to say this 3 times, folks. Is there anyone present that would like to speak for or against the application? Hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing at 7:28. We have heard the staff report. Now we are looking on the packet instead of page 30, is rolling it back to page 29 there, the preliminary plat recommendation. And with that, from the preliminary plat, we do have the findings of approval that start in the bottom of page 29 and then go through with recommendations. Going onto the top of page 30 for conditions starting at 1 going through 6. Is there any discussion on this? Do we need, it does say here, final plat approval. I don't know if you're also looking to put your same final landscaping, final lighting, pedestrian trail, sidewalk, flop.
Just to make sure we have it
Make sure
covered.
you've got it covered in both so they're the same. Sure.
I make a motion to approve that for
With those,
with those two conditions that are there for landscaping and lighting.
make sure that comes back to city council. So if there's any adjustments that need to be made, they'd be made there.
I'll second that.
First and second, thank you again. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? The motion passes as a recommendation to city council for approval. With that, we can take a 1-minute break if folks want to, or they can stick around and listen to us talk about the date of our meeting in August. Very welcome.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rearrange my papers. Let's move into our new business then. I've noticed our August meeting is set for the same Thursday as Gold Rush. There will be 100 vendors or so set up at least around us. There will be people that there will not be a parking lot easily parkable in. So the question is, do we want to move our meeting a week before? Do we want to move it a week after?
Sisters.
I'd love to.
Two sisters.
There's parking there.
There would be.
Second.
I don't know what our options are. Do we move it? I don't know what other nights of the week are available
We would move
here.
it, we moved it before, that'd be the 7th,
Let's.
Mhm.
one second.
All right, just.
Let me look and see what was
Oh,
going
yeah,
on.
this night you do that 7th that week.
I will be at the golf outing, I may or may not have been.
So the 7th is a no-go is what I'm hearing,
I'll be at
okay?
a golf outing as well, but it'll be a Gulf of Mexico.
So if we go with that, looking at our,
When's city council next month?
That's gonna be that next Tuesday after that, so
Look at the night.
a pretty quick turnaround.
so council is the,
18.
To move it back, we would put it up city council, right?
Move it back a week, would put it after city council. The city council will be the 19th.
No.
And next Thursday would be the 21st.
I don't know what public hearings we're looking at for next week or next month, but potentially we're gonna have a longer one that will be the whole city code. Now, if we have that one and the meetings after, it's just a little longer window before it goes to council, and that's okay on that one. The only ones I'd be concerned on is if we have somebody that's trying to get a building changed through or put a garage in or something like that.
Is it possible to look at room availability even for that Wednesday or Tuesday? Of that week?
So look at the 12th through the
12th or
13th. Possibly.
I will be here that Tuesday, but Wednesday I will be out of town.
Tuesday would work better for me as well.
So we're
So when
looking
we shoot for the 12th.
the 12th. This is city council website. Look.
Hopefully.
Council's website.
12th has water and sewer at 6:30.
So potentially there might be a different room. Squeeze into another room somewhere.
He's not there.
Put the-
Close the door.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's,
Will they both have to be recorded and?
I don't know that there's actually a requirement that we record these.
There isn't a requirement to record. It's-
Nice to have.
It's, right. We might be able to take this room and have water and sewer take the other, even talk to them and see if they wanna,
The city can just tell us which room we should go
yeah,
to.
yep.
That's what I.
Water and sewer often meets at the wastewater treatment plant facility, so we could do that if necessary, if that helps.
So let's tentatively shoot for the 12th. If everything lines up room wise. That's what we'll look for. We'll make sure that gets posted so everything gets rescheduled correctly.
Sure.
Okay. I have regulators on site that day 2, so I'm hopeful that I will get away, and this, I don't want this to be my excuse to get away, but it just might be. All right. With that, we don't have anybody next present for old business A to open position, so there's no candidates to interview. I did see city did post something out there on their social media, so. WSB, we still have our code, it's written, the website is ready to launch, they literally are just being dragged down a little bit time-wise because the DNR is dragging their toes, looking at the code, and it has to meet state law. It does meet state law, but we're just waiting for them to be happy with everything, and then we will get that posted. I'm hoping to see that in the next week. They've had it now over a month, so.
Is there any way to start that public hearing process before DNR comes back?
Well, and that was something I was gonna ask you guys. Do you feel comfortable enough that we could just say, hey, city, here's what it is. We could put something out there just saying the DNR is still looking at this section and this section. Just so you know, we have to comply with state law. They're gonna tell us if we are or not, so we follow what they say. If you guys are comfortable with that, we can probably get that out there in the next week.
So I think the original timeline was to
We're off
have
a
a
month now.
month, right?
Yes, and
so if we
that's-
can knock it out and if we can knock 2 weeks early, that would be great.
Are you guys comfortable with, we just roll with what it is now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think with what we have to with Gold Rush, it might be that we can have a discussion also for people,
We
maybe.
can have the public hearing that Tuesday before Gold Rush and it goes to council after Gold Rush, so.
That would be really good to get that
Out
going.
there.
And if we want that full month out there, then I think we go ahead and move forward that way. And then I don't know if we officially, do a 2-week once it's approved but
Well, what we
if we
do
make
is
it available.
We can push it out to the website at any time.
Yeah, I think.
And we just have to post the notice for when the public hearing is going to be.
Right.
And I would post it for August. I would like to get it out, the code
Yeah.
out there. And
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yep. I think as soon as we can get it out, we get it out.
Okay. That's what I'll go with, and then we'll get that rolling.
DNR,
With-
we're talking about riverside stuff.
Think about is setbacks because we have a river going through town.
Yeah.
And waterways, and anytime you have that, there's state laws that have to be complied with and they own that.
So there's nothing we can do.
Nothing
about
we
what
can really do
they-
but say we have to have it in there and tell us what we need. So, and I'm fine with that. That helps protect our drinking water. It helps protect a lot of things, so. But with that, we'll just keep going, plug in. I'll get that out there and rolling. I will double check to make sure that we can get a rep from WSB here on the 12th, because I am gonna try and have somebody be here in person. Lori is hoping to be here in person
Be great.
for that.
Yeah.
So that's the plan on that one, is that we have a representative here to help us walk through 600 some pages of code or whatever we're down to. That's the smaller number. It was 800 or something. Okay. Anything more on that?
As soon as it's published,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
think that, yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. I think that's awesome.
And everybody got the packet I had emailed out? Okay, good. I will send out,
Your blind copy note was nice on there too.
do what I can to make sure we're all complying with the open meeting and nobody can email back and, yeah, anyway. Anything more on WSB, or we'll just get that one rolling? Moving on to monthly incoming zoning applications and questions.
Well, there isn't one that's in writing right now. There's been a couple permits over there, but there seems to be some questions coming up with the greens. And that's gonna be for their restaurant, their store and whatever else. And so he's gone this week on vacation. And I had asked him to come and at least present some of the stuff that's coming out here, because we're probably gonna be looking at a variance on what's happening. And so I think it's a good time for them to get.
Just to make sure I'm following correctly and everybody else, we're talking the property that's on Main,
That's what I
Minnesota, that,
Next to the post office,
yes,
the white building.
has previously been a shed or a garage and
Yeah,
they're
it was a roof,
remodeling.
yeah. storage, I think, or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
warehouse, or I don't know what
You're
they.
looking at the post office.
It's right next to it.
It's north.
It's the side of
It's
it.
the north.
post office,
It's the same side.
parking lot, and then it's that building, and there's some remodeling and changes that have been going on. I think I saw the other day they were digging, hooking up the water or sewer.
That was next door,
Yeah,
I think.
next, yeah, it was all, there's,
Yeah, you'll see when you drive by there. So they've been wanting to do that for,
What are they wanting to do that?
they're gonna be putting in, I think it's a little bit of a restaurant, maybe sandwich.
restaurant, coffee shop, ice cream. I keep hearing different
Okay.
things, so when.
Yeah, and another little store that they, cause they own, Touch of
Shades of
Green, or
Green.
Shades of Green,
Yep.
in Rochester, so they're gonna be bringing part of that store there too.
What is that?
It's a cute
Knickknacks.
shopping
Ah,
store.
okay.
Your wife, ask your wife, ask any,
Novelties.
yes.
Which I think it's a great addition to the city.
No,
From
it
there,
would be
you might
lovely.
have more and more things that are gonna be coming in because of that. So I
Yeah.
think it's
So-
great. But I
Yeah.
just wanna make sure that everybody's aware of what they were trying to do it the right way, so.
Okay.
Yeah, the only other thing I know that we should be getting applications through are lots of new roofs. There's been some hail. I got a new roof, so, yeah. 4 years, new roof,
Well,
yeah. But, beyond that, I know not too much else permit wise, at least has filtered to me. And no written report, so maybe next month we'll get the current month and then the past month, so. There's more questions that come out of it than what's also the Nash property. I know there has been a little bit of movement on that one as well.
Heard about that one, but
I believe Jason has been in conversation with them to some extent. And they may be making some changes there finally of some kind or another. So that's maybe when Jason's no longer in here, but maybe next month we'll find out if any more has happened on that. I've just heard there's conversations happening now. Next I had Gold Rush Crossing. We had heard something, this is going back a ways. I have not heard anything new on the city side. I don't know if they're continuing to go through it on the township side, that Gold Rush Crossings piece, but
I haven't heard anything else that's come out of that.
yeah, I'm just leaving it here until I hear one way or the other to take it off and then nothing further on the driveway one either. I did check with him the other day and nothing going on now. So beyond that, we still have standing out there is anyone is interested in being an officer or a vice chair, which is the backup officer.
I'm sorry.
We do have an officer positions currently open for anyone interested. I think you two on council are off the hook because you're council members. But
We were gonna wait for the other person to come in, so.
we were, so
That's kind of.
we need to start recruiting. That's what it is. Anything else? Anything else we're missing? Anything else we missed? Anything else I did or didn't get done right here tonight?
I think everything was done perfect.
Yeah.
The WSP, I don't know that I got anything, if that's what you sent out.
They got the packet from WSB as well.
The only thing I didn't get what they put up there. I got what I got from the city. So,
Sorry for the code. The code update.
for the what update?
So, did you say you sent out the packet of
I-
like the 600 pages?
No, I have
Oh,
not emailed
okay,
that out.
Okay, okay.
Nope,
Sure.
that I have not emailed.
That's another thing you're.
What I will do is when I-
They're,
When I do that, I will send an email to everyone of Glen Carbon, you all again, so you all have, here's the link. We're not gonna print off 600 pages of
Right.
code, but it's there if you want it, so. All right, with that, we are now at 7:44. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I would motion.
I'll do a second on that one.
First and a second. Thank you and thank you. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Anyone opposed? No abstentions. We are now adjourned. It is 7:44. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Never sure about Robert's rule of order, what we gotta do, but since he posts them two separate ones, we have to do them separate.
Did you upgrade your shingles on the?
No,
You
Why
gotta upgrade them to.
No,
what
because-
is the level 4?
Yeah.
No, I'm still like 2-inch hail or whatever, 1 3/4. I'm like, I want to retire to the lake in 10 years, maybe 5 years.
They're really not that much more money. They're not.
It's, yeah,
all
I
these-
agreed.
Other people will tell you they are, but I sell them, and they're not.
We're building a cabin right now. That's where I want to put.
Gotcha. There you go.
Which I got word today that the house part was complete, so all the trades can come in now, the HVAC guy, they gotta move some stuff to the site and then.
Very good.
I know,
very good, very good.
but no, so I didn't upgrade, thought about it for a couple minutes and I was like, no. Just can't do it.
Eventually it won't be an upgrade. I think all should go to that.
I think so
To
too.
the 2.5-inch hail,
Yeah.
I
you
think-
know, if.
Actually, I think building codes are gonna change to cover